Why are you up?
Because I got some important shit going on here. What do you think?
Boom, the world class.
So with the church, some say, hey, we go to church every day, so 11 o'clock. The pastor won't even be there. They'll still be sitting in the church with an ugly suit on because that's what they were taught to do. Some of them like, man, ain't no church, ain't no Jesuses and gods, and man, hit these streets, the rebel, or some versions of whatever. But that's what that generation did. Then came our generation. Some of us were allowed to do some critical thinking. We start asking questions, getting answers, looking for information, doing whatever. The current generation, if given the chance, if given the tools, they'll out critically think every one of us. They'll smoke us. But a lot
What
of them,
generation? Who?
The sharpest of the millennials will blow us out. The sharpest ones in the right environment and tools, and technology, and all that will smoke us.
You said critical thinking? So you
If
talking about like
given
with
the
90s
chance.
babies?
Huh?
Talking about 90s babies?
90s, 2000s,
That's not
2010s.
millennials. That's Gen Z or whatever.
Meaning
Millennials
if
is
they were
really
put in the
me.
environment and taught to critically think by parents who are critical thinkers, they'll dominate.
I have to disagree with that, bro. And suits everybody on the panel first and foremost.
Most of them. Oh, go ahead, Reaper.
Just I want to agree with you. I think that this generation, I think they'll have the most tools, but I think typically those who have the best critical thinking typically start with like the least amount, right? Where you have to kind of learn how to get it without having the advantage. And I'll say this generation, like very entrepreneurial, but in terms of critical thinking, processing things on their own, I'm not sure if I see it.
No, I
the way
just
you're
said
saying.
Because
I'm
they are
saying the best of them, not them as a group. As a group, they suck.
But even the best of them don't have the analog outlet. They weren't taught the analog. They was taught digital.
Right. I also said
right.
If given, meaning they're taught by parents of Gen X, or probably Gen X to millennial, 45, 50-year-old parents who were taught to do and produce the next generation behind and taught them these skills, they dominate.
You gotta give an
example.
The ones that are going to critically think, though, are not going to, like, you're right, they're going to have their parents to kind of teach them, but they're not really going to, at least as far as I can see, maybe I'm just not bright enough to see it, they're not going to be able to form communities in the way that we did from playing outside to what they're doing now.
They have their own
version of playing outside. They have their own version of being online and stuff. But I think even if they learn critical thinking, they're not going to have the same sense of local community to whatever macro level.
Yeah, social skills. Those two are different. Social skills, they'll be behind. Critically thinking, they'll be ahead, or can be ahead.
Let's go finish real fast. You done though?
He helped them, but what I'm trying to say is that when they, like, whatever their version of society looks like, whatever 20 years down the line from now, 30 years down the line from now, is not going to necessarily be the most beneficial way, because it will be still kind of an every man for themselves kind of identity that they're creating, instead of what millennials have an opportunity now to develop is an actual still connected to the world, but still grew up on dial-up, but still able to connect to the real world, because they're not making their money the same way. They're all going online. If they're critically thinking, they're doing this, they're getting things done faster and more efficiently in a way that doesn't allow them to connect with people in a way that that's meaningful, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Social versus critical thinking are two different things. But I
I'm
do
saying
agree.
the way you're right. That's the part I'm trying to connect, is that is that if without those two being acting with respect towards each other or helping or without both, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be a beneficial outcome. Just being great critical thinkers is not going to produce a society that that can develop further. Like America got to this point, America really can't get further if there's not if there isn't a hard reset on some of the things that allow people to connect with each other on a more local level.
Well,
I disagree with that. I think
those
critical
communities
thinking.
were. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say critical thinking is like I think the most important factor. I gotta disagree with that. I mean, if you look at even on an economic scale, one of the reasons why China hasn't surpassed the US, you know, if you any of your economics heads, I'm sorry, this is some nerdy, stupid shit I had to learn in college, but the Z factor, right? You have the labor, you have capital, and you have the Z factor, right? Which is a technological factor, which ties into education, critical thinking, blah, 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 innovation. And China, you know, even with the whole, you know, well, so-called growth, some of it's kind of fake. But when you look at them again, if you talk to any economist, whether it's, you know, saltwater or freshwater type fucking Keynesian, they all say the same thing about China, that their Z factor is just not the same. When we talk about critical thinking, because their culture is very, you know, it's like the Japanese shit, right? One nail that sticks out gets hammered. They don't, and not to say they don't have thinkers like that. They definitely do. They have, you know, innovative people, whatnot, but not to the degree that, say, America has, right? So I just think that if you want to progress as a society, you always have to have someone who thinks, you know, outside the box, right? You know, necessity breeds innovation, things of that nature. So to me, I think critical thinking is the most important. Okay, how do we advance from here? We're at this level. How do we get to the next level? How do we make things even more efficient, right? How we make things even more easier, you know, for the everyday man. And I think that you know you have to have critical thinking. My bad. Go ahead.
I'm not sure how old you are, but oh my bad, man. Interrupting somebody.
I'm just say this real quick. That's valuable, Reaper, when you because I see a bottleneck happening in terms of intelligence and character. Because if I'm using technology to remove the mundane things, now all of a sudden, like we don't write in cursive like we used to, right? Which when you write in cursive, it fires off 2,000 neurons in the brain, right? So if
don't write, period, straight typing.
Yeah, right. If I am the mundane things have been removed with technology, but I don't have nothing I'm aspiring to, and I'm saying as a people and as a generation, if I'm not looking like Elon Musk is talking about, we're going to space or we're going to Saturn or something, just as an example of something big that we're working for, which we haven't had for a long time. Our parents had. Maybe one day we'll see a so-called black president. Maybe one day we'll have rights like that. But what are we fighting for right now that is not going to be a hindrance? Because I agree with making things be more efficient, but okay, things are getting more efficient. We're getting stuff easier, great. But to accomplish what? There's no sense of purpose.
Right. You know what, bro? That's actually a good point, because you know what it probably is. Real quick, it's probably just diminishing returns. I'll give you that. Like you have convexity and all that shit. I'm probably saying it wrong, but if you look at, you know,
what? Hold on.
I'm saying that diminishing. There's probably some diminishing return. What he's trying to say is that at a certain point, when you have, say, you have a scale X, Y, Z, X and Y scale, right, where you're measuring like innovation and like, you know, I don't know how you put it, like advancement or whatever, you know, like how far do you get, right? There's diminishing returns, right? So to world class saying I have to kind of agree to is like, all right, there's a certain point where you've innovated so much that you're actually you're making life so easier. There's no impetus for us to get better, right? I have everything.
This
like,
thing.
why?
Easier for who?
That's where the difference is going to be made,
and that's that. But the issue is not how easy it is for the higher ups who are able to have automation and use it in their stores and not hire as many workers. How about the workers, B?
No, yeah. So it's gonna be for everybody. So okay, bro, I don't know who's talking. My bad.
Oh, it's easy for you to just sit at home and not have no money other than what we give you, like.
You're 100% correct, but bro, you remember back?
At all. Is it easy to sleep on the street?
Is it easy to sleep on the street, be homeless?
I can't do it, bro. I can't.
Nah, I can't.
You think that's easy?
Okay.
Is that
it's not
easier
easy.
than working a 9 to 5?
No. You're missing it. You're missing it. What we're saying is he was talking about efficiency, right? So making things, using critical thinking, and from a standard of education, right? Using critical thinking to for the purpose of moving something forward. So we've done that. We have computers now. We got technology. Factories are getting easier to make cars and make a Bentley and stuff like that. So we're increasing
we moving fast, right?
Are you talking about as a whole, or are you talking about people? Because
I'm
people
glad
the
we
thinking
saying
went
we.
down.
Hold on, one at a time.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm glad we saying we.
Yeah,
But I'm saying I think we need at this point in time, it's certain words that are very small but have to be defined. Like who are
right
we?
now, I'm
who are we? Who are they? Who is us? You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm answering
real
for you.
small words. But
I'm
they
answering for
need to
you.
clearly be defined.
Right now,
bro,
who's on what side? You know what I'm saying?
Bro, even on an average level, okay, for instance, you said the homeless, right? Sorry to cut you off, world class. For the homeless, you know how many people back in the 90s, say early 2000s, let me say early 2000s, right? When people started to have cell phones all over the place, blah, blah, right? It wasn't natural for me to see everybody with a cell phone. Bro, in New York, I see guys who are homeless, got the 3 billion layers on them, walking around with the big carts. They are charging their cell phones to the fucking little I don't know what you call these things in New York. These little tower things that you get call for help or whatever, on the street and shit.
Are we saying
I'm saying
cell
for
phone is a
no
sign of having money?
No. My point is that making it easier for even I guess that's the lowest denominator, but just average like for the average person, just averaging it out. Not to say that everyone's gonna have a cell phone. I say, but that the fact that you have even homeless people having cell phones, and not just here. I'm seeing a lot of people have homeless people have cell phones, and it has service. So I'm like, how the fuck do you get service where you can make service that cheap, bro? Where it's just that efficiency. You got spectrums that could. That's what I'm talking about. That you're innovating to the point that things are.
I gotta ask the question. Do you think when we say we, it's a lot of times black men who take credit for what white men have built? It's a question from the chat. I just want to know. Do you think that's something that we really have as an issue?
No, we don't have. That's not an issue. That's just people that don't know history. Intelligence is self. Education is self. We created it. So
I want to make a point real quick.
Go ahead, Zoe.
I do understand critical thinking as I think Scan was saying. I think the brother to the left of me was saying, or to the right of me. I can't really tell which way. But so you say his name is Reaper?
Yeah.
Let me put the
Reaper. What the hell? It's a murderous name, but all right.
Golly, I can't.
But let me say this. Like, okay, so critical thinking is going to only get more efficient. I think they're even building a supercomputer that can think as fast as a human mind, or so they say. Critical thinking is only going to get more and more efficient, and as that critical thinking falls into the hands of the few, the best out of us, things will get better technology-wise and in certain ways. But homelessness is one of them issues that you can't really, even if you're homeless with a cell phone, nigga, you still homeless.
No.
But that's not that wasn't my point.
Myself as an example to make this point.
You still gotta find somewhere to charge your phone.
The aspect is the social aspect. It's the social aspect that matters to the critical thinking, to say if the critical thinking part matters at all. Because there was a certain point
when I was talking critical thinking, I wasn't talking about technology. I was talking about people. Like,
I know.
No. Hold on. That's what. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. So
I'm more in line with what Scan was saying. That's why I'm trying to make it about the social aspect as well. Because at a certain point, when the television came out, it was only a certain amount of shows you could watch, and everybody watched those shows. So everybody was connected on a social level to a certain degree. And as things became more and more and more, the television became less and less. I think what Reaper was saying, like diminishing returns. It doesn't matter if you got 10,000 channels, you only care to watch 6 or 7 shows. The same thing is happening as time progresses with technology, further to the point that it does not matter if a man is homeless with a cell phone, no matter how great of a thing that is compared to whatever thousands of years ago in history. It's still a great thing, but what does that mean to a homeless person now? To where I'll use myself as an example. The fact that I have family that I care about, the fact that I have connections and networks with people that I really care about, that I've known from since young, is not the same level of what these kids are going to be having as they get better and better at critical thinking. So when they don't have a purpose, that purpose is really missing because they don't have people around them that they really even care to live for like that, or they want to be around for like that. Like when it comes to like maybe like their immediate family and that's it, but they don't have the social skills to make the technology that useful, to make it that to make it as powerful as it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's
Those
not
are separate.
there's not a governing body socially or culturally that can help push the good of what this technology is supposed to mean, or what the critical thinking is supposed to bring results for. Does that make more sense?
No,
So
I agree.
we're
I'm just saying
arguing
that
two
critical
different.
thinking. Yeah, critical thinking and social skills are two different things. They're separate.
No, hold on. Let's get back to the point.
He
Let's get back to the point.
He made
Hold on,
a very valid point.
Hold on, Issa. Let's
it's
get.
valid.
Hold on. Let's just because we're getting lost.
I'm trying to tie it together, but I'm like,
yeah, I get you.
Scam
was talking about basically. Can I say the word character in terms of like the child, like children and Scam?
What do you mean by character?
Or people skills. People skills. Are people developing?
Oh yeah,
as it relates to critical, because you was bringing that critical thinking up.
Relating to critical thinking, I'm talking decision making and problem solving. For example,
that's why.
You go to Walmart and you have a problem, and there's a 22-year-old. Hey, I'm thinking about getting a card for, somebody passed away. My generation knows someone passed away. Be sympathetic. So that's critical thinking. Okay, they're going to need this. Ask them a couple questions.
I got to go. Hold on, Scam. I don't want because
A, B, or C question. Okay,
that's more like common sense.
So what I'm saying is,
it ain't that common.
What I'm saying is, critical thinking as it relates to real life application. What I'm saying is that it also affects technology. Critical thinking makes things more efficient. So I don't have to go through your example, right? I don't have to go through the whining and the crying and the insensitivity that makes that experience in Walmart much more efficient. What I am saying is bringing up the fact of bottlenecking. If I'm removing the mundane things, if I'm removing a lot of negativity and a lot of problems that comes from not having critical thinking, but I also, as what Zoe just said at the finish of the end of what he was saying, if I also don't have a purpose, if I don't have a big goal that's going to create a bottlenecking of me removing the mundane, like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. There's no prompt for me to grow.
That makes sense.
Things are getting more efficient, but I don't have no direction I'm going in. I'm not trying to get to space. I'm not trying to get to Mars. I'm not trying to clean up the ocean, or I'm not trying to create new energy. And
no incentive. You have no incentive.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I see. So if you prioritize critical thinking, you're gonna get the efficiency. If you prioritize it like that and you emphasize it like that, you're gonna get efficiency. But then we get this. I think you said diminishing returns.
That's just diminishing returns, bro. So exactly, you get to a certain point where it's like, all right, where else, right? Like, how do you create the new paradigm and get you to the new level? It's like, all right, now we have a new need, right? So that's why, like you put it perfectly, bro. What's the incentive, right? And that's what, even though econ was some parts of it was boring as shit. One thing I love that they teach is like incentive and utility. Utility is just essentially satisfaction, right? And at a certain point, right, there's like, it's not linear in terms of your happiness. At a certain point, it's just like, all right, I'm not going to keep working because my utility, like I just don't get any more utility by working, from 70 to 80 hours a week to get this much more money. I'm good where I'm at right here. I'm good. And that's the same thing in terms of innovation, science, like you said. If everybody has something, right? Like, why do I have to, until you create a new problem, maybe destroy resources or, there's a war and people are, deleted and things of that nature. It's like, oh, okay, now we have to try to find, or, say food, right? You have a population boom. Now I can't do the whole agriculture. I can't do it from I can't have an agrarian society, right? I have to industrialize to make food a lot quicker and for a lot more people, right? So that's how, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, at a certain point, like you said, with thinking, at a certain point, yeah, they're going to be people like, yeah, I could learn the next level of astrophysics so we could go to Mars and that stuff, but I'm happy here. I don't give a shit.
Right.
And, like you said, if it starts to get down to even the top people, or it's just say on average, then that's where you kind of stop. But, that was my point.
Oh no, baby, what is you doing? I know damn well you ain't been watching it this long and ain't hit that like button.
You son of a bitch. Going right for the jugular, aren't you?
And hit the like button before we buy something.
What's going on?
Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Hit that little red button and consider becoming a member.
Why not? Why? Haven't you heard what they say about me? I'm a degenerate fucking animal.
Everything not gonna end up on the channel, man. We gonna put stuff in the back, you know, for the people that support the channel. I mean, it's okay, you know. Some people want to be freeloaders. I used to did it. Cash App, IG, link, it will be in the description. Also the email, find something you want me to react to, man, hit me up in the email. Now let's get back to the video. Appreciate you.
No, I agree with the point as a whole. I was just more talking, when I was mentioning critical thinking, I'm just talking more about who is this person and what are they capable of doing? As in the older generation was not that capable of critical thinking. The answer was no. Just do what you're told or either go all the way crazy. Is most of that. That's what it became.
I would still have to push back on that because I think they were exceptional in another area. I think when it came to inventions, when it came to work, I think they were exceptional in that area. But personal development, self-development, no, I'll give you that. I agree with you there, but I can't. They were very creative. They had a lot of trades. They did a lot of critical thinking when it came to other areas. I would have to give them credit for that.
And also too, a lot of families were destroyed by drugs, bro. A lot of families were left, destroyed by drugs. So you're talking about people had to fend for themselves, right? You talking about when people say, I have to agree with you, disagree with you.
Using drugs means you don't have critical thinking.
No. I'm saying that. So I'm talking about the children, the offspring of parents who use drugs. And by the way, hold up, that's not true. Because you find your neighborhood crackhead. I don't know how many crackheads nowadays, but you find your neighborhood crackhead where they still got crackheads, and that guy knows how to maneuver, move through life, knows how to make money for himself, sustain not just the food and water, but also crack in a place.
It is such a thing as functioning addict.
No, that's called self-preservation. They don't have a choice.
But that's critical thinking, right?
No,
it's critical thinking does not necessarily denote being knowledgeable. Let's separate that. Being smart and knowledgeable are two different things. I could go through life and be a lot. Look, you can have the most knowledgeable person in the world. If they walk through, say, Brownsville, Brooklyn, at 3 a.m. at night, thinking, "Oh wow, this is a great neighborhood," they're gonna get robbed. Versus a critical thinker who has a fourth grade level education, be like, "Yeah, I know that gang is over there at this time. I gotta go this way. I gotta move this way."
You're spreading critical thinking too thin.
No, survival mode is totally different. That's self.
But that's critical. But hold up, that's critical.
I understand.
Wait, do you understand how they teach? Hold up, do you know how they teach?
I'm saying.
I feel okay. Do you know how they teach critical thinking? I think it's in Switzerland or Sweden. How they teach critical thinking to kids? They put them outside.
You're wrong.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I understand. I'm just trying to make the point of that. When you put somebody in a certain situation, and I think sometimes when they have the least amount of tools, and you tell them, "Hey, fend for yourself," survival mode. I'm not gonna say it's akin to critical thinking, but it's a major part where it's like, all right, you have to think without having someone give it to you. Someone give you the tools. Give me this situation. How would you maneuver? There's no right or wrong answer, but there's probably going to be, in terms of efficiency or the most successful, you're going to have a list of solutions. What are you going to do in this situation? That's critical thinking.
Critical thinking in a specific context.
A crackhead can.
Hold on. One at a time. Eso was waiting the longest. Let Eso get in first, and then you go, Sam.
Just speaking on what he just has said, even in critical thinking, it is definitely a wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, if understanding, like, once you get to a certain point in philosophy, it's not where you can deduce something without having the right reasoning. If your reasoning is fraud, you're not going to come to the correct answer. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's still going to be a right and wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, as far as
I'm just saying, try to use critical thinking in the way that Scam was using it, because that's the context that we're using it. You spread it too thin when you make it about crackheads, because then it takes it away from the conversation.
I was using one fucking example.
It's not spread. No, that's real specific. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when you're talking about someone who has an addiction, right? whatever the addiction is. In this instance, is being crack, right? It's like that's something that you shouldn't do, but even in doing so, there are certain people, like that's why I brought up the term functioning addict. There's certain people who actually do function with their addiction and not necessarily overuse it, because with it, in the end of the day, it's about moderation. You know what I'm saying?
Most addicts are
right.
functioning addicts.
Now, I'll say this about critical thinking, and I'll even use the crackhead example.
Not the ones that OD.
Yeah, it's honestly the same thing that the traditionalists believe. Okay, person needs crack, so they're in survival mode. They will do anything to get crack. But hold on, hear me out. Critical thinking is where a person can get themselves out of becoming a crackhead and actually get out of a situation and into a better one.
But you are
crack for a day and be right back out there.
You are right now. You pedestalizing critical thinking right now in mid stride. That's what you're doing right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you say exactly because you're saying it like it's a hero, but it could work both ways. You use critical thinking to slaughter children, like, you know what I'm saying? It's a neutral thing. So I brought it up. I'm just going to read it.
That's fair.
The objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. So that's what critical thinking is. I couldn't find it in no. I know I go to the all the time, etymology, but that's the term that Google gives us, which I don't disagree with. I think it's much more neutral.
I think it's more.
And I think,
than that. But yeah, the neutral part is right. Yeah, you can either do something good or something bad. Yeah,
so a thing like, it may seem like an extreme. I mean, there's worse things than using drugs. Let's be real. Yeah. So a crackhead's process of finding ways to keep getting crack is amazing. You know what I'm saying? They come up with them. They sell other people's shit.
Right. You know but that's what I'm saying. The schemes, the plots, all that. You can't say that they're not critical thinking. Like, it's just the way that they're going about it may be something that is flawed to someone who has a higher IQ or who knows more. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you got like more knowledge, you could maybe come up with different ways, and you would be deemed as a crackhead. Then you would be a business person who just do crack.
All right, you know what? All right, forget the critical thinkers that are going to lead the future instead of crackheads. That's where I thought the conversation was.
Hey, Marion Barry and that dude from Canada.
You could be a mayor and shit.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Hey, you could be the president's son. You could be the president's son making deals in Russia.
You could be the president's son. Exactly.
Sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to get.
Shouts out to Biden and them.
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
you know what? You know, it's a great. You know, it's a great example. You know, it's a great example of someone who's not a crack. It's a movie, but you know, someone I love this movie to death, man. Fresh. Samuel Jackson. I'm forgetting the fucking.
I love that movie too.
That's my top.
That is a great movie in terms
moves,
of. What?
That's what I'm saying.
Come on,
like,
bro.
You could be a bum and you can play chess.
But that's critical thinking. He's in an environment that he didn't create himself. He's not a crackhead, right? And he could have went to school, but the school thing. Look, he had his sister was with Giancarlo Esposito, one of the greatest actors that no one talks about, by the way. And he was in a situation where he had to look. I can't sit up here and cry. I have to critically think. How do I get around this stuff? How do I save my sister? And that in itself is the epitome, in the movie sense, of critical thinking. Maneuver. He wasn't the most intelligent. He wasn't the most eloquent. Wasn't the most knowledgeable. But he found a way. Why? Because he didn't have anything. He's like, look, if I got to survive, I know Scammer doesn't like this, but survival mode bred. Hey, you got to think on your feet. You got to find a solution.
He was the most intelligent.
How many of these people nowadays, on average, I'm not saying there's no poor, there's no people struggling, but on average, compared to say 1867 or 1700s or whatever, 18th century, where the lifespans are shorter, people didn't have medicine. Medicine wasn't as readily available. You know what I'm saying? Some of the things you had to pay for back then is dirt cheap now, right? Typically, take the whole pharma fuckery out of it.
Man,
you know what I'm saying? So
real food back then.
Oh Lord, this guy's scammer, man.
Somebody said it's a trait. Hey, can you look up trait?
Trait?
As in, it can't be learned. Critical thing can be.
Right. Like
I think some people have. There's a greater capacity for some people to critically think, But I don't know if it's like nature versus nurture. I don't know.
think you gotta be born with it or not?
Environment plays a big
I
factor.
I was looking for the comment first. You said critical thinking, fasting with voice. Appreciate you coming through. Hit the like button, share. Get people into the conversation. Critical thinking is only for real thinkers. It might be a trait. I wouldn't think it would be a trait.
But there are niggas out there who they are smart as shit. They're in terms of the science world, technology. They're smart as shit, but they came from a family of doctors, scientists, a physicist. They've had opportunities, or they've been in the right places, and that helped them get to where they are now. Are they great critical thinkers? Not necessarily.
Possibly.
Some of your greatest critical thinkers are working janitor jobs, right?
There's a difference between talking about general critical
Beautiful
thinkers
mind,
and like the critical thinkers that are going to lead the way into the future.
No, not beautiful mind.
There's a difference between talking about those two things.
Good with Hunter.
Anybody can think critically at any point, but the critical thinkers that are going to become fewer and fewer and lead the way into the country and lead the culture into the future is a different thing. So if you were talking about the lead critical thinkers, then we're talking about the best of who we have now, or the most the people who are going to be most able to adapt into the future. Those critical thinkers. That's a very specific class versus any one of us who is capable of critically thinking at any point in time.
That's true. So do you think it's a case of that? Do you think is that we naturally always going to have these critical thinkers who kind of lead the way, or do you think it's kind of like a compounded growth thing where it's like, all right, they're built off the backs of what we did in yesteryear, like the guys who are going to lead us in the future, and obviously that's how technology works. But I'm saying like the critical thinkers are going to create the newest innovations, whatever. They're built off the backs of those
before us, and that we've specifically, because of our lack of focus on education from our generation, and then going into the millennials, going into the Gen Z and the future generations, that there will be fewer and fewer critical thinkers. Because the two things that you're supposed to learn in school is how to learn, and then how to learn things that you don't know. And they don't teach you how to learn things that you don't know. They teach you to learn what you have, and they teach you to go to the internet for everything else. And these kids do not go to the internet to learn outside of their realm. They go to the internet to develop what they're already comfortable with socially.
That's when you bring up the Mr. Miyagi again. Where the wax on, wax off. You don't teach them how to learn.
Hold on one second. We having an intelligent conversation. It undermines it if we over talking each other. So Scam, you know how to run a panel, right? So let's just keep at the level with that we operate now, our level. So go ahead, finish ESO, then Scam.
Nah, I ain't mean to
cut you good. Oh, you good? We just want to keep it.
I was saying, like, if say for instance you have, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, you got it.
No, I was just gonna say, there's a difference in solving a full-out problem from start to finish, identify the problem, look for solutions, all that process, versus looking for the answers. That's all I was gonna say. Multiple choice tests and all this testing, that's what's doing it. They're learning different now than we did. Like
I think that's purposeful, right? I know it sounds conspiratorial, but I think that's purposeful. Where it's like they don't want people thinking for themselves, right? So they're gonna put you on Adderall, they're gonna sit you in a room, which is the worst for boys. Boys don't learn that way. Yeah. Girls typically do, but drug you up, and like you said, they're gonna teach. They have the answers ready there. Hegelian dialectic, but that's another topic. Anyway, they have the answers there ready for you. And it's like, learn it this way, get to such and such, get through this problem this way, versus put you out in the field. Like I said, I think it's Sweden or Switzerland. I'm fucking forgetting which one it is. And they tell the kids, hey, look, we need to build a tree house. Go out there and see what you can do with these logs out there. That's it. And you're going to spend the next, how many recesses it is, And I think classes too, learning how to build a treehouse from scratch, and then your teacher comes and maybe reinforces it or whatever, but you're gonna learn how to do it by yourself, right? So I just don't think they want people thinking on their own, bro. If you do that, then you're gonna have people looking at the government like, yo, wait, hold up, hold on. We paying federal taxes and there's no actual federal. Let me try. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get a world class.
Yeah, to that point, right? Zoe, you said that we have it's like a lack of interest in education. I disagree,
it's a failure of education.
I agree with that, and I think the failure of education is because we haven't prioritized self-education. And I say self-education, not just like quirky, non-qualifiable information. Even when you keep it formal, you find that the people that score the highest or the best or the most successful are not just natural geniuses. They are people that go outside of the norm and do the extra studying, stay up the longest, do the extra research. And I don't think we emphasize how dependent success is and perseverance is with self-development or self-education.
I can speak after you.
Self-education is important. I want to say that, like, the reason I made the point I made earlier was because, well, in my own personal experience, I did have to be more of a rebel and want to be educated and interested in self-educating because of my dissatisfaction with school. So from my time from elementary school up, I watched church deteriorate, and that's one social aspect or whatever. But I watched education system deteriorate from funding being pulled to not being educated to the degree which I knew I was capable of learning more. So I was reading. I was one of the kids who, like, I didn't have no friends, so I would read the whole textbook, and I'd be reading ahead in the textbook. So when it came time my turn to read, I already was like 3 chapters ahead, getting in trouble for stuff. Like, that was my experience because I was trying to learn more instead of like being a part of the indoctrination stuff. The schools from my age and below was only becoming more gradually, or more leading more gradually towards indoctrination and not teaching you how to teach yourself.
Exactly.
Like, not like you learn what they give you as the basics, and they say, here's how you, and what I had to learn on my own was, how do I go find out things that I want to know?
Yeah.
So
apply
when I was a kid, I learned how to find the encyclopedia or whatever. I used to be friends with the librarians. So when I skipped class, I skipped class to the librarians. Once I started being bad and shit, I started like, let me go to the library. Let me go to the art department. Let me go places where they're going to let me express myself, because everywhere else is like a social a popularity contest, or if you're in a class, they're trying to indoctrinate you or something else. They're not teaching you how to get over on your taxes when you make some money or something like that. They're not teaching you anything that you're going to feel like you came up from learning. You don't get no gems from the game. So I'm sitting there trying to figure that stuff out for myself. And there's going to be kids like that in every generation, but it's not encouraged at all from my generation down. So it's going to be less and less and less. And those kids are not going to have the same network that we have from the millennial generation, because they're all growing up with iPhones and tablets and iPads and all sorts of things that allow them to dissociate, because the education is not there for them. The education isn't there for them to learn to self-educate.
I'm glad you said that, because I've been posting that word. I've been posting videos on that word, dissociation. It was one day, but it was like 3 different videos, and I think the cases of dissociation is not, I don't think it's as genuine as people think. I think it's literally about the topic that we're talking about right now. Whereas you have such a detachment from reality, which is only one form of dissociation, because people are living through these screens, and these things through these screens mean so much it means so much to these people, and it creates this false sense of reality.